I came home late from work, my hands still dirty from fixing the boiler in apartment 3B, when my wife Lena looked up from her laptop and said the words that would change everything. "You need to leave. My friend is coming over tonight." I stopped in the doorway, tool bag still in hand, and stared at her. She was wearing that silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary, the expensive one she usually saved for special occasions. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, makeup fresh despite it being nearly 10 o'clock at night. "Your friend?" I asked, setting my tools down slowly. "Yes, Tom, my friend." She didn't even look up from her screen. "I need the apartment tonight. You can get a hotel room or something." The casual dismissal in her voice hit me like a slap. 22 years of marriage, and she was kicking me out of my own home for a friend. The apartment building we lived in? I owned it. I was the superintendent, the guy who fixed everyone's problems, who knew every pipe and wire in the place. What kind of friend needs me gone for the night? I kept my voice steady, but my mind was already working, cataloging details. The way she kept glancing at her phone, the expensive perfume she was wearing, the fact that she'd changed the sheets earlier. I could see the fresh linens through our bedroom door. "The kind that's none of your business," she snapped, finally looking at me. "Just go, Tom. One night. Is that too much to ask?" I studied her face. This woman I'd married when we were both young and stupid and thought love conquered everything. Lena had always been ambitious, always wanted more than what my blue-collar salary could provide. Her real estate career had taken off in the past 2 years, and suddenly she was making more money than I'd ever seen. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, weekend trips I couldn't afford to join. "No problem," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'll book something downtown." The relief on her face was unmistakable. She actually smiled. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand." I booked a room at the Marriott, showed her the confirmation, and started packing an overnight bag. But 24 years in the Army, including 3 tours as a sniper spotter, had taught me a few things about surveillance and preparation. While Lena was in the shower, I made a quick stop at my workshop in the basement. The smart doorbell I'd been meaning to install for months was still in its box. It took me 15 minutes to swap it out with our old doorbell, syncing it to my phone and adjusting the motion zones to capture the entire hallway and entrance. The beauty of living in an old building was that nobody questioned the super doing maintenance work. I also grabbed one of my spare motion sensors, the kind I used to monitor the building's common areas, and discreetly placed it near our bedroom window. If someone was coming over, I wanted to know when they arrived and when they left. "All set," I called out as I grabbed my jacket. "I'll see you tomorrow." Lena emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, looking nervous. "Tom, Save it," I said, not unkindly. "Whatever this is about, we'll talk tomorrow." I kissed her forehead like I had 1,000 times before, grabbed my bag, and left. But instead of driving straight to the hotel, I parked 3 blocks away and opened the doorbell app on my phone. The view was crystal clear. I could see our front door, the hallway, even part of the street. The motion detection was working perfectly. Now all I had to do was wait. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I opened the app and watched a silver BMW pull up to the curb. The man who got out was someone I recognized immediately, and my blood turned to ice. Peter Siverson. Pete. The city inspector who'd been making my life hell for the past 6 months, finding violations that didn't exist, demanding inspections that weren't necessary, treating me like dirt every time he set foot in my building. I watched him walk up to our door, watched my wife open it before he could even knock. She was still in that silk robe, but now I could see what was underneath. Nothing. She threw her arms around his neck and kissed him like she hadn't kissed me in years. Then she pulled him inside, and the door closed. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching the building, my mind racing. This wasn't just an affair. This was something else entirely. Pete Siverson had been harassing me for months, finding problems that didn't exist, threatening to shut down my building over imaginary code violations. And now, he was sleeping with my wife in my bed. The pieces started falling into place. Lena's sudden financial success, the expensive clothes, the new car, the mysterious business trips, Pete's constant harassment, always demanding to inspect units that were perfectly up to code. My phone buzzed again. A text from my old army buddy Jorge, who now worked in tech security. "Still on for coffee tomorrow? Got some new toys to show you." Jorge. If anyone could help me figure out what was really going on, it was him. I texted back. "Change of plans. Can you meet me tonight? I need a favor." An hour later, I was sitting in Jorge's cluttered apartment, watching him work his magic on my building's Wi-Fi network. Every device that connected to our network left a digital fingerprint, MAC addresses, connection logs, timestamps. "Your wife's been having regular visitors," Jorge said, scrolling through data on his laptop. "Same device connecting every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. Always late night, always stays until morning. Can you tell me what device it is?" "iPhone 14 Pro, registered to Peter Siverson, City of Millbrook employee account." Jorge looked up at me. "Tom, what's going on?" I told him everything. The harassment, the inspections, Lena's sudden wealth, tonight's discovery. Jorge listened without judgment. We'd been through worse together in Afghanistan. "You want my advice?" he said when I finished. "Document everything, every connection, every visit, every interaction. If this is what I think it is, you're going to need evidence." "What do you think it is?" "Corruption. Your wife's a real estate broker, right? And this guy's a city inspector. Think about it. How many deals could they facilitate if they could guarantee clean inspections? How much money could they make?" The thought hit me like a physical blow. It made perfect sense. Lena had been bragging about her success, about how she could get permits approved faster than anyone else in the city. I'd assumed she was just good at her job. I drove back to the hotel, but I didn't sleep. Instead, I spent the night going through Lena's social media, her business website, public records I could access online. By morning, I had a timeline that made my stomach sick. The first Tuesday night friend visit coincided exactly with Lena's first big commission, a commercial property deal that had required multiple city inspections. Inspections that had been fast-tracked by Pete Siverson's office. At 6:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with another motion alert. I watched Pete leave our building, looking satisfied and smug. He got in his BMW and drove away. I waited another hour, then called Lena. "Good morning," I said when she answered. "How was your night with your friend?" "Fine," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "When are you coming home?" "Actually, I'm bringing someone with me. My lawyer wants to meet with you." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for 10 seconds. "Your lawyer?" "Tom, what's going on?" "We'll be there in an hour," I said, and hung up. I'd called David Martinez at 7 a.m., waking him up, but he owed me favors from when I'd helped him through his own messy divorce. By 8:30, we were standing outside my apartment door, along with Detective Sarah Harper from the State Police Public Corruption Unit, another old Army contact who'd been very interested in what I had to tell her. "You sure about this?" David asked, adjusting his tie. "Once we do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." I used my key to open the door. "Lena, I'm home." We found them in the kitchen, both of them. Pete was sitting at my table in his underwear, drinking coffee from my favorite mug. Lena was scrambling eggs, wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt. The look on their faces when they saw me walk in with a lawyer and a state police detective was worth every sleepless minute I'd spent preparing for this moment. "What the hell is this?" Pete jumped up, reaching for his pants. "Peter Siverson?" Detective Harper stepped forward, badge visible. "I'm Detective Harper, State Police. We need to talk." Lena dropped the spatula. "Tom, what's going on?" "Sit down," I said, pulling out my phone. "Both of you. We're going to have a conversation. David opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Mrs. Garrity, you're being served with divorce papers. Mr. Siverson, you're being served with a subpoena to appear before a grand jury investigating public corruption. I watched Pete's face go white as he read the subpoena. Lena just stared at the divorce papers like they were written in a foreign language. Tom, I can explain, she started. Actually, you can't, I interrupted. But I can explain a few things to you. I opened the smart doorbell app on my phone and turned it toward them. Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m., you arrive. Wednesday morning, 6:30 a.m., you leave. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months. Pete was pulling on his pants, hands shaking. You can't record people without consent. I can record whoever I want on my own property, Detective Harper said. Mr. Garrity, show me what else you have. I'd spent the early morning hours with Jorge, pulling together everything we could find. Bank records that Lena had left accessible on our shared computer. Business emails she'd forgotten to delete. City permit records that were public information. Lena's real estate business has processed 47 commercial property deals in the past 18 months, I said, spreading papers on the table. Every single one required city inspections. Every single one was fast-tracked through Pete's office. The average processing time went from 6 weeks to 5 days. That's just good business, Lena said, but her voice was shaking. Maybe, but this isn't. I pulled out bank statements. Lena's business account shows deposits totaling $180,000 over the past year. Deposits that don't match her commission statements. Deposits that came from an offshore LLC registered in the Cayman Islands. Pete was fully dressed now, looking toward the door like he was thinking about running. Detective Harper moved to block his path. The LLC is called Millbrook Property Solutions, I continued. Registered agent is a law firm in Georgetown that specializes in anonymous business structures. But the interesting thing is, every deposit into Lena's account happened within 48 hours of a permit approval from Pete's office. You're fishing, Pete said. You don't have anything concrete. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Jorge, my tech guy, helped me with something interesting last night. Lena, remember when you bought that new laptop 6 months ago? The one you said was just for work? She nodded, looking confused. Well, it automatically backed up to our shared iCloud account. Every email, every document, every photo. I pulled out printed pages, including these emails between you and Pete, discussing payment schedules, including these photos of cash drops, including this very detailed spreadsheet tracking payments to city officials. The kitchen went dead silent, except for the sound of Pete's heavy breathing. Detective Harper leaned forward. Mr. Siverson, I think you should call a lawyer. This is entrapment, Pete said. You set us up. No, I said, standing up. You set yourselves up. I just documented it. See, the thing about being married to someone for 22 years is you learn their habits. Lena always backs up everything. Always. She's paranoid about losing files. I turned to my wife, who was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. The offshore account, the cash payments, the falsified inspection reports, it's all there, Lena. Every detail. Tom, please, she whispered. We can work this out. Can we? Can we work out the fact that you've been taking bribes to facilitate permit fraud? Can we work out the fact that you've been sleeping with the city inspector in our bed while I was working to pay our bills? Can we work out the fact that you wanted me gone last night so you could celebrate your latest payday? Detective Harper was taking notes. Mr. Garrity, are you willing to provide copies of all this evidence? Already done. I handed her a flash drive. Bank records, emails, photos, communication logs, even the smart doorbell footage from last night. Pete finally found his voice. You son of a bitch. You planned this whole thing. No, Pete, I reacted to it. There's a difference. I looked him up and down, this small-time tyrant who'd been making my life miserable for months. All those inspections, all those violations you claimed to find, it was never about code compliance, was it? It was about control, about showing me who was boss while you were screwing my wife. Tom, stop, Lena pleaded. Why should I stop? You didn't stop when you decided to destroy our marriage for money. You didn't stop when you decided to corrupt a city official. You didn't stop when you decided to kick me out of my own home so you could celebrate your crimes. David cleared his throat. Mrs. Garrity, I need to inform you that all marital assets are subject to seizure under federal forfeiture laws if they were obtained through criminal activity. That includes your business accounts, your car, and any property purchased with the proceeds from this scheme. What does that mean? She asked. It means you're broke, I said. It means everything you bought with dirty money is gone. It means you're going to federal prison, and when you get out, you'll have nothing. Pete was looking frantically around the room. This is insane. We're talking about permit fees, not murder. We're talking about public corruption, Detective Harper corrected. Bribery of public officials, conspiracy to defraud, money laundering, tax evasion. You're looking at 5 to 7 years federal time. Each, David added helpfully. The reality of their situation was finally sinking in. Lena started crying. Pete started sweating. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Satisfaction. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out my final piece of evidence. The building you wanted me out of so badly? The one you've been harassing me about for months. I own it free and clear, have for 8 years. And as of this morning, I'm evicting both of you. I handed Pete an official notice. You have 30 days to find new office space. Your lease is terminated for cause, specifically using the premises to conduct criminal activity. You can't do that, he sputtered. Read the lease agreement. Section 12, subsection C. Any illegal activity on the premises is grounds for immediate termination. I smiled again. I may just be a building super to you, Pete, but I know how to read a contract. Detective Harper closed her notebook. Mr. Siverson, Mrs. Garrity, I need you both to come with me for questioning. You have the right to remain silent. As she read them their rights, I watched 22 years of marriage dissolve in front of me. But instead of sadness, I felt relief. The woman I'd loved was gone. Had been gone for months, maybe years. What was left was a stranger who'd sold her integrity for money and thought I was too stupid to notice. Tom, Lena said as Detective Harper led her toward the door. I'm sorry. No, you're not, I replied. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Detective Harper's office watching her spread crime scene photos across her desk. Not photos of violence, photos of evidence, bank statements, email printouts, surveillance images of cash drops. The FBI is very interested in your wife's operation, Harper said. This isn't just local corruption. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, this is organized financial crime. How organized? I asked. Organized enough that they've been running this scheme in 3 different cities. Millbrook was just the testing ground. She pulled out a map marked with red pins. Same pattern in Riverside and Oakmont. Local real estate broker partners with city inspector. They fast-track permits for cash payments, split the profits through offshore accounts. I stared at the map. Lena was part of something bigger. Much bigger. And your evidence broke it wide open. Harper leaned back in her chair. The federal prosecutor wants to offer you a deal. What kind of deal? Full immunity, witness protection if needed, and recovery of all marital assets seized as proceeds of criminal activity. She slid a document across the desk. In exchange for your testimony at trial. I read through the agreement. It was more generous than I'd expected. What about Pete? Siverson's trying to cut a deal, claims your wife was the mastermind, that she seduced him into the scheme. Harper snorted. Problem is, we have evidence showing he was running the same operation in Riverside before he even met Lena. So he's lying. He's desperate, facing federal conspiracy charges, bribery, money laundering. He's looking at 10 years minimum. His lawyer's pushing for a plea that would put everything on your wife. The idea of Pete trying to destroy Lena to save himself should have bothered me. Instead, I found it grimly satisfying. Honor among thieves, apparently, was a myth. What does Lena say about that? She's not talking. Lawyered up immediately, claiming spousal privilege for any conversations between you two. Harper grinned. Too bad spousal privilege doesn't apply to criminal conspiracies. My phone buzzed. Jorge texting me an address. Can you meet me tonight? I asked Harper. I think I have more evidence for you. What kind of evidence? The kind that shows this goes deeper than real estate permits. That evening, I met Jorge at a coffee shop downtown. He looked excited and nervous at the same time. I've been digging into the financial records you gave me, he said, opening his laptop. The money trail is insane. How insane? Lena and Pete weren't just selling permits. They were selling zoning variances, environmental exemptions, even historical preservation waivers. He showed me a spreadsheet. Look at this transaction. $50,000 payment for a variance that let a developer build a shopping center on protected wetlands. I studied the numbers. That's not just corruption, that's environmental crime. It gets worse. Remember the old Riverside Mill project? The one where they found asbestos contamination, but the developer was allowed to proceed anyway. I remembered. It had been all over the news 6 months ago. A historic mill conversion that had poisoned 3 city blocks before being shut down. What about it? Pete signed off on the environmental clearance for $75,000. Jorge pulled up email records. And Lena brokered the deal between the developer and the city. She made $200,000 in commissions on a project that hospitalized 37 people. The scope of what they'd done was staggering. This wasn't just about money. People had been hurt. Lives had been damaged. There's more, Jorge continued. The shell company they used, Millbrook Property Solutions, it's connected to a network of similar companies across the region, all registered to the same law firm, all following the same pattern. You think this is organized crime? I think this is a franchise operation. Someone selling a corruption playbook to city officials across multiple states. I thought about Lena, sitting in a federal holding facility, probably still believing she could talk her way out of this. She had no idea how deep the hole she'd dug really was. Jorge, I need you to copy all of this and send it to Detective Harper, tonight. Already done. But Tom, he looked uncomfortable. There's something else, something personal. What? I found communications between Lena and someone else, not Pete, someone higher up the food chain. He turned his laptop toward me. Look at this email thread. The emails were between Lena and someone identified only as MK. The subject line was Expansion Opportunities. Lena, Tom's getting suspicious. He's asking questions about the money. MK, handle it. We're too close to the Richmond launch to have problems now. Lena, I can keep him distracted for a few more weeks, maybe longer if I play this right. MK, whatever it takes. The Richmond operation is worth $2 million annually. Don't let your husband ruin it. I read the exchange twice, feeling sick. When was this sent? 2 weeks ago, the day before she kicked you out. The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. Lena hadn't just been having an affair, she'd been planning to get rid of me entirely, not for love, but for money. The Richmond operation, whatever it was, required my elimination as a potential threat. Jorge, I need you to trace this MK person, tonight. Already working on it. But Tom, if this is what I think it is, if Lena was planning to have you killed or disappeared, you need protection. I thought about that possibility as I drove home. 22 years of marriage, and my wife had been planning to eliminate me for a business deal. The woman who'd promised to love me until death do us part had been actively planning the death part. My phone rang. Detective Harper. Tom, where are you? Driving home. Why? Don't go home. Meet me at the station, now. What's wrong? We just arrested 3 men outside your building. They were carrying zip ties, duct tape, and a bottle of chloroform. My blood turned to ice. Lena? Made a phone call from jail this morning. We're still tracing it, but we think she ordered a hit. I pulled into the police station parking lot, my hands shaking. 24 hours ago, I'd thought this was about corruption and adultery. Now it was about murder. Harper, I said when she met me at the entrance. I think I know who she called. The federal task force meeting was held in a conference room that looked like something from a spy movie. Maps on the walls, computer screens everywhere, agents in suits talking in hushed tones. I felt out of place in my work clothes, but Detective Harper had insisted I needed to hear this. The 3 men arrested outside your building were hired muscle from Richmond, Agent Patricia Wong explained, pointing to photos on a whiteboard. Professional intimidation specialists, but not killers. We think they were sent to scare you, not eliminate you. That's comforting, I said dryly. What's not comforting is who sent them. She pinned up a new photo, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. Meet Marcus Kingston, federal fugitive, wanted for operating a multi-state corruption network. I studied the photo. This is MK? Marcus Kingston. He's been running what we call a corruption franchise, selling complete bribery operations to city officials across the Southeast. Your wife and Mr. Siverson were just one cell in a much larger network. Agent Wong pulled up a map showing connections between cities. Richmond, Norfolk, Charlotte, Savannah, all running the same scheme. Local real estate broker, corrupt city inspector, offshore money laundering, environmental crime. Kingston provides the setup, takes 60% of the profits. How much money are we talking about? Conservative estimate? $20 million over 3 years. Wong looked grim. And that's just what we can trace. The environmental damage alone is incalculable. Detective Harper leaned forward. Tom, your evidence didn't just expose your wife's operation. It gave us the key to bring down the entire network. What does that mean for me? It means you're the star witness in the biggest public corruption case in federal history, Agent Wong said. It also means you're in danger until we can arrest Kingston and dismantle his organization. I thought about the men with zip ties and chloroform. How much danger? Enough that we're recommending witness protection until the trial. The idea of hiding from my own life was depressing, but the alternative was worse. What about Lena and Pete? Siverson's cooperating. Gave us everything he knows about Kingston's operation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Wong pulled out a thick file. Your wife, on the other hand, is still claiming she was an innocent victim of Siverson's manipulation. Even after ordering the hit on me? She's claiming that was Siverson's idea, too. Says he threatened to kill you if she didn't make the call. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Pete Siverson couldn't threaten a parking meter. He's a bureaucrat with a power complex, not a killer. We know that. The jury will know that. But her lawyer's building a defense around the idea that she was coerced into everything. Detective Harper slid a document across the table. There's something else. The forensic accountants found another account. One your wife didn't know you could access. I looked at the bank statement. It was for an account in my name, at a bank I'd never used, with a balance of $500,000. What is this? Insurance, Agent Wong said. Kingston's organization always keeps a contingency fund in case they need to eliminate loose ends. Your wife set up this account 6 months ago, probably planning to use it to disappear after having you killed. The casual brutality of it hit me like a physical blow. Lena had been planning my murder for 6 months, setting aside money to fund her escape afterward. The good news, Wong continued, is that this account is now evidence of premeditated conspiracy to commit murder. The bad news is that it confirms Kingston's organization sees you as a major threat. What do you need from me? Everything you remember about your wife's business activities, travel schedule, phone calls, visitors, Anything that might help us track Kingston's network. Wong opened a laptop. We're going to go through this systematically. For the next 4 hours, I told them everything. Lena's mysterious business trips, her sudden wealth, her new friends, her changed behavior. The agents took notes on everything, cross-referencing my timeline with financial records and surveillance data. Your wife was more than just a local operator, Wong concluded. She was Kingston's regional coordinator for the entire Southeast. She recruited Pete, trained him, managed the money flow, and reported directly to Kingston. So she was the boss? In this region, yes, which makes her testimony crucial to our case against Kingston. Wong closed her laptop. Unfortunately, she's not talking. What if I talk to her? Detective Harper shook her head. Too dangerous, and anything she tells you could be ruled inadmissible as spousal coercion. What if she doesn't know I'm talking to her? The room went quiet. Agent Wong looked interested. What do you mean? Lena's always been paranoid about phone security, but she has one weakness. She trusts her sister completely. If I called her sister, asked her to visit Lena in jail, maybe record the conversation. That would be illegal, Wong said. We can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm suggesting. Wong and Harper exchanged glances. Tom, if you did something like that on your own initiative, and if you happened to share the results with us, we couldn't stop you, but we also couldn't protect you from the legal consequences. What legal consequences? I'm a private citizen talking to my sister-in-law about my wife. No law against that. There are laws against recording conversations without consent. Not if the sister-in-law consents to being recorded. I smiled. Lena's sister hates her guts, has for years. Something about Lena stealing her boyfriend in high school. Detective Harper grinned. Hypothetically, if such a recording existed, and if it contained admissions of criminal activity, it might be admissible as evidence. Hypothetically, I agreed. Agent Wong sighed. I can't officially endorse this plan, but I can tell you that we'll be very interested in any information that comes to light about Kingston's operation. Understood. As the meeting broke up, Detective Harper pulled me aside. Tom, be careful. If Kingston's organization thinks you're actively working against them, they'll escalate from intimidation to elimination. They already tried to eliminate me. No, they tried to scare you. There's a difference. If they really want you dead, those 3 guys with zip ties won't be the worst of your problems. I thought about that as I drove to the safe house the FBI had arranged, a bland apartment in a bland complex where I could hide until the trial. But hiding wasn't really my style. I'd spent too many years in the Army learning that the best defense was a good offense. That night, I called Lena's sister, Michelle. Tom? Oh my God. I heard about Lena. Is it true? It's true. Michelle, I need a favor. Anything. I never liked that smug bastard she was sleeping with anyway. I need you to visit Lena in jail, and I need you to record the conversation. There was a long pause. Why? Because she's planning to blame everything on Pete to save herself, and because she tried to have me killed. She what? I told Michelle everything. The corruption, the murder plot, the network of criminals her sister had been running. By the end, Michelle was crying. I knew something was wrong, she said. Lena changed so much in the past year. She became so cold, so calculating. But I never thought, will you help me? Yes. But Tom, be careful. If Lena really is what you say she is, she won't hesitate to hurt you. Or me. I know. That's why we need to stop her. Michelle visited Lena 3 days later, wearing a wire provided by Detective Harper. I listened to the conversation from the FBI surveillance van parked outside the Federal Detention Center, my hands clenched into fists as my wife's true nature was finally revealed. Michelle, thank God you're here, Lena's voice came through the speakers. I need you to do something for me. What kind of something? Michelle's voice was steady, professional. She'd been coached by the FBI on how to draw Lena out. I need you to contact someone for me, a business associate. Tell him the situation has changed and we need to accelerate the timeline. What business associate? His name is Marcus. Marcus Kingston. He's in Richmond. Lena lowered her voice. Tell him Tom is cooperating with the FBI and that we need to implement the contingency plan. In the van, Agent Wong looked at me grimly. She's trying to order another hit. On the recording, Michelle was asking the right questions. Lena, what contingency plan? What's going on? The less you know, the better. Just tell Marcus that the Richmond operation needs to proceed immediately and that Tom needs to be handled permanently. Handled how? Use your imagination. Lena's voice was cold, matter of fact. Tom's testimony could destroy everything we've built. He has to be eliminated. Lena, are you talking about killing your husband? I'm talking about protecting a business worth millions of dollars. Tom was always too stupid to understand what we were building. He thought this was about some affair with a city inspector. Lena laughed, and the sound made my skin crawl. This was never about Pete. This was about building a network that could control development across the entire Southeast. So you were using Pete. Of course I was using him. Weak men are useful. They're easy to manipulate and easy to dispose of when they become liabilities. Lena's voice became bitter. Just like Tom. 22 years of marriage to a man with no vision, no ambition, no understanding of what real power looks like. Michelle pressed further. But Lena, Tom loves you. He's been devastated by all this. Tom's a fool. He actually believed I married him for love. Lena laughed again. I married him because he owned property and had military contacts I thought might be useful. When he turned out to be just another blue-collar nobody, I found better opportunities. In the van, I felt something break inside me. Not my heart, that had broken weeks ago. Something deeper. The last vestige of the man who'd believed in love and loyalty and the possibility of redemption. The money we made, Lena continued, the connections we built, the power we accumulated, that's what matters. Not some pathetic marriage to a building superintendent who thinks changing light bulbs is a career. What about the people who got hurt? I read about that mill project where people got sick. Collateral damage. You can't build an empire without breaking a few eggs. Lena's voice was completely devoid of empathy. Those people chose to live near a construction site. They assumed the risks. 37 people were hospitalized, Lena. And we made $275,000 on that deal. Sometimes the math is simple. Agent Wong was taking notes furiously. This wasn't just confession, it was evidence of complete sociopathy. Michelle, I need you to understand something, Lena continued. When I get out of here, and I will get out, I'm going to rebuild everything. But I can't do that with Tom testifying against me. He has to be eliminated. What if I can't find this Marcus person? Then find someone else. Use the money in the Cayman account. There's enough to hire professional help. Lena's voice became urgent. Michelle, this is family. You have to help me. What about Pete? Is he part of this plan? Pete's already dead. Lena said it casually, like she was discussing the weather. He tried to cut a deal with the FBI, so Marcus had him eliminated yesterday, made it look like a suicide in his cell. The van erupted in activity. Agent Wong was on her radio immediately, calling for confirmation about Pete's status. Detective Harper was already on her phone with the detention center. Confirmed, Harper said after a tense minute. Siverson was found dead in his cell this morning, apparent suicide by hanging. But I was still listening to the recording, where Lena was giving Michelle detailed instructions on contacting Kingston, accessing offshore accounts, and arranging my murder. The key is timing, Lena was saying. Tom's testimony is scheduled for next month. We need him eliminated before then, but it has to look accidental. Marcus has people who specialize in that kind of work. Lena, I can't. You can, and you will. Lena's voice turned threatening. Because if you don't, And if I go to prison because of Tom's testimony, I'll make sure everyone knows about your little embezzlement problem at the bank." Michelle's voice became small, frightened. "How do you know about that?" "I know everything, Michelle. I've known for years that you've been skimming from customer accounts. I have documentation, evidence, everything needed to send you to prison for 20 years. Lena's voice was triumphant. "So you're going to help me, or we'll both go down." In the van, Agent Wong looked at me. "Did you know about the sister's embezzlement?" "No, but it explains why she agreed to help." I felt sick. Even now, even facing federal charges, Lena was manipulating and threatening the people closest to her. The recording continued for another 10 minutes, with Lena providing detailed instructions on money transfers, contact protocols, and murder logistics. By the end, we had enough evidence to charge her with conspiracy to commit murder, witness intimidation, and continuing criminal enterprise. "That's it," Agent Wong said as the recording ended. "We've got her." But I wasn't feeling triumphant. I was thinking about Pete Siverson, found dead in his cell. About Michelle, trapped by her own crimes into helping a murderer. About 37 people hospitalized by Lena's greed. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we arrest Marcus Kingston and dismantle his entire network." Wong closed her laptop. "And you prepare to testify at the biggest corruption trial in federal history." "What about Michelle?" "She'll face charges for the embezzlement, but she'll get a deal in exchange for her cooperation." Wong looked sympathetic. "Tom, I know this is hard, but your wife is a sociopath who's been using everyone around her for years. You're not responsible for her choices." I knew she was right. But knowing it and feeling it were different things. I'd spent 22 years married to a woman who'd never loved me, who'd seen me as nothing more than a useful tool, who'd been planning my murder while sleeping in my bed. "There's one more thing," Detective Harper said. "The trial's been moved up. With Pete dead and Lena making new threats, the prosecutor wants to move fast before more witnesses disappear." "How fast?" 2 weeks. I looked out the van window at the detention center where my wife was being held, probably already planning her next move. In 2 weeks, I'd take the stand and tell the world everything she'd done. And then finally, this nightmare would be over. But first, I had some planning of my own to do. The federal courthouse in Richmond was a fortress of marble and steel, surrounded by media trucks and protesters. I walked through the gauntlet of reporters with Detective Harper and Agent Wong, ignoring the shouted questions about my wife's crimes and my role in exposing them. "Mr. Garrity, how does it feel to know your wife tried to have you killed?" "Tom, are you seeking revenge or justice?" I didn't answer. The truth was, I wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The courtroom was packed. Marcus Kingston sat at the defendant's table in an expensive suit, looking calm and confident. His legal team filled an entire row, high-priced attorneys who specialized in white-collar crime. At the prosecution table, Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Chen was organizing stacks of evidence, preparing for the fight of her career. Lena wasn't there. She was being held in a different facility, awaiting her own trial. But her presence haunted the room anyway. This whole case had started with her betrayal, her greed, her willingness to destroy everything for money. "Mr. Garrity," Prosecutor Chen said when I took the stand, "please tell the court how you discovered your wife's criminal activities." I testified methodically, from Lena kicking me out after her affair with corrupt Inspector Pete Siverson, to the final recording where she ordered my murder to silence me. The jury heard the full scope: environmental crimes, bribery, money laundering across 6 states, poisoning communities for profit. I had no idea during our 22-year marriage. I thought her real estate success was legitimate. Cross-examination tried painting me as vengeful over the affair and divorce. I countered, this was about justice, not revenge, stopping a criminal franchise that viewed lives as expendable. The damning audio played, Lena calmly directing my elimination. Jurors looked sick. Marcus Kingston got 35 years, Lena, 25. The network collapsed, $47 million recovered, cleanup funded. 6 months later, my building thrives with honest tenants. I've donated tainted assets to victims and environment. Divorce final, I'm at peace on my roof watching sunsets. A new corruption case calls. I'm ready. Justice isn't revenge, it's necessary. And sometimes it's enough.